One is that two people, in addition to the writer, are checking it out for misinformation. Okay, as soon as it's cleared, then it will be typed or printed and sent links, correct? Now, we want you to also, on it, like up in the far left-hand corner or something, put genetic general, genetic-general. It could be a parenthesis, or it doesn't have to be, but I want it to be, because see, you're going to be writing genetic specific and genetic different titles. But this is going to be the general. Isn't this the general one that we're talking about? So let's call it just genetic general. We go up in the left-hand corner of everyone's. Okay? And let's have a format that is the same for all of them, so that they put their name in the same place on it. Where have they been putting the name? At the beginning and the end? Well, let's continue to do that, but let's decide on which side of the page it's going to be on.
Because I can't find it at the beginning.
Well, the instruction was to put it at the beginning and the end. So let's put it at the beginning and the end, but we want some uniformity so that we can flip through these and see that it's like when you have other segments, but this is the genetic general one, and then we want to be able to glance over and see whose it is. We also want you to do one little further aspect of grading on it, and that, but this will, as a craft, since they're not going from craft to craft, it just people at your craft are examining the segments in your craft, right? We want you to pick on a given topic, like this is a general topic, we want you to pick like a best one and two second best ones. Okay? Let's say that everybody in your craft has read everybody's genetic general. Okay? And you think orthodes was the best of everybody in your craft on that topic. You've got a piece of paper where you're marking a first place and two second place on a given topic. Okay? And it doesn't show up on the paper. It doesn't show up on their segment. It shows up on a separate paper. It doesn't have to accompany each segment. It accompanies a group of segments. You follow that?
And in the list of them, like once we get all the generals in that
Yes. Don't you think so? In other words, you can't really give us your generals until they've all been read. Didn't you say that a group would go at once?
They still come to us like they have been if they've been graded.
Come at separately after they've been read? Well, they aren't going to be graded. I'm sorry, say again what you...
Then we would send them back?
Well, we can do it either way. You're saying let them send them to us after they're typed, and then we would send them back. Why would we send them back?
Well, let's start over again. Okay, let's take it because I'm confused.
Shall I turn this off a minute?
Sure, we could.
Yeah. Now let's just run through this real quick. The first procedure is that you write your segment in longhand, putting your name at the beginning and at the end, and it's up in the upper left-hand corner. It's genetic general, and then the title of your segment. Your name's on the front and at the end, and it gets graded, and each segment gets graded by the people in your craft only. It's graded fair, good, better than good, right? And then it's sent to Links. And then Links looks at it and sends it back to your craft, at which time you try to take the comments on the grading sheet and make corrections and improvements. But you try to do it quickly. We don't want you to hold on to we want you to get on to other topics. We've got some other topics we want to get you on. So try to do this as quickly as you can. And after having made corrections and improvements, before typing, then 2 people check your paper over for misinformation and any obvious errors. And at that point, then, after you've gotten rid of any misinformation or obvious errors, then it is typed or printed. And after being typed or printed, then it is graded again by all the members of your craft. But this time, there are no comments. It is graded only good, better than good. And it is sent to links, and you will never see it again. Or you may see it again, but then it's out of your mind. Okay? Won't go back to the craft. And did I leave something out? Or any questions about what I said?
Put it on diskette. You could keep it in the craft also, if that's an option.
We would like for them to be on diskette.
And you could have another copy of them.
I think so. Or what do you say? Shall we put the... I'm asking, I don't know either. Whoops. Yeah, the point we're making here is we don't want you to look at this grading system as if yours ended up with a grade of fair, that it's any less important than someone who got a grade of better than good. Because you're all approaching it from different computers. I mean, some of you have Apple, some of you have pears, and bananas, and most of you are bananas. Okay, but so we're going to put all of these finished segments on diskette. Now that means then, right, that instead of being typed, they'll be printed. Okay. Does that mean that? Wouldn't it mean that? It'd be just as simple to, since you're putting them on diskette, then we'll print them. Okay. Questions?
I think my signal, like, the first one turned in and it wasn't general. Should I just put that aside and concentrate?
Yes. We said we wanted generals to take priority. Because probably after you get a general that you're pleased with and it's your final general, you'll probably want to do some improvements and changes on your separate idea or your more specific idea. We, C and I have talked about the fact that after you all get good generals, now we're not talking about good as a category, but a finished product of a general, that you can then write them. In other words, we're hoping that by doing the general, and the more we talk to you, that you will get your terminology out of philosophical or religious or spiritual type terminology, and that you can write about things, different topics related to the idea of what this civilization is in the process of becoming, and even what would be the condition of this civilization and the habits of this civilization at its completed generation or its ultimate generation, and helping them understand how life moves in that direction with nothing being lost. Do you follow that? So this is a bit contrary, not contrary, but we did not want you in your early beginnings of writing these segments, and particularly during your genetic general, to say you got to do this, you got to do that, because we're not going to say you got to do anything. Even on these segments that are coming up, we're not saying you got to do, because you've got to rise above the got to do concept. You're looking at what a civilization, how a civilization evolves, and what is what the positive would eventually become once it reaches the end of so-called human kingdom. And even the understanding that doesn't mean that as a whole the kingdom is any human kingdom is going to reach its ultimate end of human kingdom. That, as we have said to you, that there'll be many, many segments of living human kingdom members that would be some distance from reaching that segment when a few reach that condition. And but you aren't going to be shy. You're going to be objective about what is required in reaching that condition. You're going to concentrate on the understanding of the more humans become aware of what is destructive to their bodies, what is destructive in their habits, what is destructive in their conduct, what is destructive in their nutrition, what is destructive in their environment, that the more advanced of the civilization who are concerned with those things will take that information and move a step forward, even though they will later discover that half of their step forward ideas were obsolete and will have to be changed, and they'll have a whole new set of rules as they take another step forward of trying to eliminate the negative and the destructive forces as they get control of not killing themselves, because what they do is kill themselves with their negativity. And so they're going to move towards not doing that, and towards being less negative and less animal. Now, you're going to think about this until you come up with an area that you think you can talk about clearly, objectively, and let that be a title of another segment. But in the same way that what the world now calls the Bible has in it certain segments are in the Bible that are as advanced as these segments, if you know how to read them. Even certain segments in the Old Testament are as advanced as anything that was left in the New Testament, if you know how to read them. And so each time the next level has had a strong influence in close range with the humans, they have been in tune with very advanced information. And it always caused uproar with the primitives who were not ready for that advanced information, because it was a threat to their primitive ways. And but there are always some few who would see it as information ahead of its time, and therefore enlarge upon it and try to idolize it and shoot for it, even though they distort it considerably. But the point, back to what I was saying a moment ago, is just that the so-called scriptures had ultimate information in it. What you're going to leave behind is also going to have ultimate information in it. But it's going to be in a new light. Now, because it's going to be more advanced than anything, how you present it is going to be more advanced. Because the humans have advanced a condition where they are more advanced. Now, that by the time some of the existing humans on this garden at this civilization reach that condition, your segments too will be obsolete and called spiritual and primitive, because they will have a word processor in their head. They will have use of the vocabulary that's far more objective than anything that we can use now, so that they will see what you have written as distorted. Do you see what we're saying? But at least you're going to make your contribution, and as potent of a contribution as you can, to give them something to shoot for a long time. And if it's real potent, it could take a certain segment to the end. Can you follow that?
A certain segment of the population.
Yeah.
In other words, the information you know now can take somebody to the end.
And through several generations. It would, in other words, the information would last them until they had reached that condition. If your information is clear, if you do your task well, if it's potent, if it's something that they can swallow from an intellectual, objective point of view, without being automatically turned off by it so that they become hostile toward it. Do you see what we're saying? So this is why this is extremely challenging to you. And we feel it's extremely important part of your task. Is that clicking because the tape needs to be turned up? Okay. In other words, we want to make the segments that you're writing and this contribution that you're leaving in this way extremely important to you. And we don't want one of you to think that your contribution in this way is one iota less significant and important than a segment left by any other of your classmates. This is not something that can be thought of that way. That's a human way of looking at it. We feel like the cross-section of your class, the way your different brains work and the way your minds are functioning through the brains that you have, that there's enough variety there that it would very significantly speak to different ears on the same topic. And we really want you to have a pleasure out of this contribution to the next level. We feel like that part of your task, a very significant part of what the next level sent you to do here, is what you're going to leave behind. And we're working on it. And we haven't asked you before today, or before this last week, for any final drafts on anything. We haven't even asked you for anything typed in a catalog type way that could be left and seen in an organized way. I mean, the books that you wrote last year, they were just trying to get you going in this way. Even though somebody reads those, they'll learn a lot too about different things at different levels. But as far as teaching information that is extremely important to this garden, which is the chief's garden, and you're trying to help feed it for him in this way, or to be used by him in feeding it. And so you want to be sure that you're feeding for him the best you can do.
I'd like to bring up something that you maybe just a little bit off different subject, but we were reading some reports on slippage meetings and how individuals help an individual when they are having a meeting for something. And we've noticed that the majority of the individuals use the knowledge that Link has taught you to use. And only a couple individuals use their own interpretation of it. You know what we're saying? In other words, it's like one individual will bring up their own examples that is not familiar to Link. They will, in other words, when you're helping somebody in your class, when you're even writing your segment, you write only what you have been taught about, not some idea that you have come up with on your own.
is you don't add to it. You don't translate it over. Now let's go over what he's talking about again. Steve was talking about like in slippage meetings that you have had, where an individual in helping someone with their problem would say, well, it's like, and then they would give an analogy of what that problem was like and how to deal with it. And it didn't jive with anything that Link had ever
In other
given.
words, we hadn't discussed that with you. It was something else.
Yeah.
Now, we know that you have the ability to come up with things to help somebody. But they have to be only human ways right now. Because we haven't awakened you enough in the next level way in order for you to use an example that Link knows nothing about. Can you understand this? In other words, the way you are awakened, it's just like a computer has a lot of knowledge. But until you push the right button to get that knowledge out, it doesn't come out, right? So what Link is doing is pushing buttons on your computer in order for your knowledge to come out. But when you come out with something else other than what Link has pushed the button on to come out, what's this for? Anyway, so it can come out, then that means that you're using your human mind.
Right.
And
We
it
want.
doesn't work.
Right. If we have said you've got to learn control on how to close the door to thoughts as they're beginning to come in, you don't turn around and say, what you really need to do is learn how to leash ideas in a sense that you give them a reversal. You see what I'm coming up with completely different terms.
Okay, a good
That means that don't mean the same thing to me.
Sure.
That's the point. They may mean the same thing to you, but you've got to realize that there's a breakdown in communication when you take illustrations that we give you, and you make another illustration out of them. You have diluted them. You have changed them to a degree, so that they are less what we have given to you.
Remember how Cody used to change things around every time we did something?
He would have to come back with, oh, you mean, we would say,
Or give an example.
and he'd say, oh, yes, that's like, so and so and so and so and so and so. And it was never the same thing. It was a similar idea which he liked that he had. And he saw that he felt like it was like our idea. It was never once like our idea, in our mind.
Our idea was the way we expressed it.
Yes. And we couldn't have expressed it any other way than the way we expressed it. And for him to come back, or for you to come back and try to express it in different terms, to say the same thing, it's going to be distorted.
And you're not doing what you're supposed to do. In other words, you're supposed to use the channel that we open for you by using the ideas that we have given to you, or the thoughts. Now, does that mean you become robots that see and don't know? All we're doing is just like any more than the computer is a robot. It has to wait for you to push the button in order to get some information out of it. It's just what we're trying to do is to awaken you in the right way.
If you have programmed that computer with certain words meaning certain categories and subcategories, can you expect to come back with synonyms of those words and get those categories to show up?
You have to use the exact
Do you
word
see what we're saying? It's not going to work.
or the idea. Now, there are only a few individuals who still do this, and I bet you if you read the slippage reports after they have been typed up, you can see what is not leaked information. It stands out like it's in red letters, glowing like a neon light to us. And
We would like for it to stand out that way in your mind as you read those slippage meetings, that's not what was given to us. That's an analogy that is trying to imitate what was given to us, but it is not the same terminology.
It's that vehicle trying to still get its own way in its
Or play feature
philosophical
role,
way,
or
right.
call
You know what
upon
we're
other
talking
terms in order to express itself. You know, the ideal servant of the next level wants to be a perfectionist in finding out what are the number one words. Well, you know what I'm saying? Like in a dictionary, the number one meaning, there's as a word and it has a number one meaning as a 2, 3, 4, so forth. Or it could have a synonym that was the closest to that, and then ones that maybe aren't quite as close, but are fairly close, if all the same idea. But what you want to do as a servant of the next level is be only number one words. That's why when we say something to you, we are both in agreement to the word that we use in trying to explain that to you. Now, T may explain, I may explain, T may explain, and try to give you repetitions 3 or 4 times, but we haven't changed our terminology. We may give you those words a little, and while we repeat them, and maybe a little more clarified way, or doing whatever we can to see if the thought is getting across to you. But we don't try to, I don't try to change. I know I'm distorting if I change what T says, and vice versa. I don't try to embellish it. I might hope I can tune into it enough to assist in clarifying it, and at that point I'm desperate for T to listen in case I have changed it, because the first thing I want to know is if, in trying to clarify it, if I have embellished it or changed it in any way, then I'm going to correct it. So what you want to be, it's like, how can the next level be so in tune with each other that humans would even see them as communicating mentally? It's because they've gotten their words down to the minimum. They've gotten their thought transmission down to commonness, because their conduct is common and the way they think about things is common. So if I have the same thought, if I see something and it registers so-and-so, and you are a member of the next level, I can pass that thought to you and you know how to read it. But if you're so inclined to be poetic about things that you see, or to build on them, make them more than what they just actually are, then there'll be a breakdown in communication as I send you that thought. Or I can count on that there'll be a breakdown in communication as I send you that thought and you send it to someone else. But if you care to only know what I saw as I send it to you, then you will, to the very best of your ability, send the exact same words in the exact same order with the exact same reflection, hoping that you got the right thought and that you're transmitting the right thought. Do you all understand that?
What if they read something in a magazine, one of these science magazines, and they wrote a segment including some of the information in the magazine? Is that right?
Not if we didn't give it to
We don't know that it's right.
No.
In other words, you're writing segments on what you have been taught. And that's all we're interested in. Those magazines can be put in the library someplace and they can read them. Humans can read them. But what you're trying to do is leave next level things. Next level people did not write that information. That was a human interpretation of it. So what you want to put on in your segments are the things that you have been taught.
And that you know through experience as a student that they are so.
So don't be influenced by that. Does that mean all the segments that have been written now will have to be rewritten?
No.
Only if you have...
Misinformation. That's the reason we sent this instruction back. Go through and be sure there is no misinformation. To us, if they did not get it from their teachers, it is misinformation.
Now, this is how strict you want to be with your computer. Just like we don't want anything on these computers that Apple too, that isn't as close to the truth as we know it. And this is how you want your own individual computers to be, meaning your vehicles and all that. You want only the absolute. The only next level thing that you know is right is as close to the truth as we can get to you at this time.
See, we even
You can't
know.
get it out of a magazine.
No.
You cannot get it out of the newspaper. You can't even get it out of those UFO magazines. You know, there isn't any place that you can get it. And we're, in a sense, it's good because this way we can say, well, that might sound right, but we don't know. All we know is what we're talking about. We're talking about the two teachers here.
Actually, we're not talking about words. We're talking about ideas.
Right.
and we're talking about words about the only thing we can use to try to, in other words, by keeping those words alike and as simple as possible, do we try to get a clear idea across to you. But the funny thing is, you are not taking our idea, or you are not, then what you have is not our idea. It is what was given to us to give to you, and when it is yours, it is yours. I mean, do you follow? Do you see the value of that? When the next level gives us information, knowledge, wisdom about the garden, we receive it, we pass it to you, and it is yours. Do you not have wisdom and knowledge and information? In other words, don't ever stoop so low as to think, well, am I going to be limited to what I have received? And because I say, I hope I am limited to what I have received. You see the different point of view? A human would say, goodness, am I going to be limited to what I have received? A member of the next level would say, I hope that I am limited to what I hope I don't add to or change anything that I've received, because I will distort what the older member has been given by the chief to give to me.
And as you grow, you will have new information fed to you. And that's all you will know. But there's not a single thing wrong with it.
But you are building a great, big mind, which is the mind. It is yours, and you are a member of the next level. I mean, it is a mind to be more proud of than anything you could have had that had a mind of its own. Because anything that's a mind of its own is other than mind of the next level. It is, in the eyes of the next level, it is less than. It is lower than. Do you follow that? And therefore, as you build a storehouse of information that you have received from the next level, if we hadn't taken you through the steps, and as theologians, some who were separated from the class for a while, how hard you have to twist your brain to, as you're trying to compact steps, because we have so carefully told you information that a month later was obsolete, and a month later was obsolete. What if we'd gone 6 months? What if we'd gone a year? You've got all of that to get in there that is changed, and it's almost indigestible. And as you receive new information, it precipitates down through everything that you have learned and updates it automatically, and gives you a beautiful new insight and objectivity degree, oversight, overview that you never had before.
But let me add something before we get off that, because those lower interpretations in each update has to stay in your computer. Y'all understand why? Because if you're ever given a task like this, you will have to take somebody through the same process that we have taken.
It has to stay in your mind. It has to stay in your mind.
In your mind.
Yes, in your next level mind. But you are called a computer too.
Because you're being taught how to do what we're doing. And but you're in the preliminary stages. And each time you do something like this, it will be kept in your storage bank. And as you need it, you will push the right button and be able to handle whatever it is that needs to be handled with the. Yes, you will use the knowledge to handle the circumstance that you have on you. And this is why we said that each task that you are given, you are storing that knowledge into your vehicle, or into your mind, not your vehicle. Right, that's your mind. And therefore, the more tasks you have, then of course the more your mind grows and the more knowledge you have in your mind. This is why we say when you do a task, do it as quickly as you can, so you have time for another task. You don't want to take a task and make it last forever, because what have you learned from that? all you know, you're limited to that one task. And what you want is 10 tasks. And that's being very conservative within a matter of hours.
You know, it's very important that you, we gave a little brief analogy here for retreat the other day about how your the genetic structure of your vehicle is a storehouse of information and experiences, just like, in other words, Arthoti sitting there and has a next level mind, and his vehicle is an Apple IIe. And Arthoti's next level mind is the person who is programming that Apple IIe. Now his Apple IIe also came in a package box with a lot of programs that came with all Apple IIe, which was the generation ancestral background of Arthoti's vehicle. Now his next level mind is this free-floating information that keeps adding to the information or the storehouse of his Apple IIe. Now, do you see that? Can you see that real clearly? Now, can you see now that Apple IIe is also getting a mind of its own as it stores information? It's having a mind of its own as it stores information. These humans out here, they have minds of their own, but they are in a midstream somewhere in a civilized advancement. But they have minds that are connected with, because those minds, by the time that few reach the end of human kingdom level, will at that point even reach a condition where, with the help of those who are in the level that they will then be beginners in, can assist them in even extracting that mind and operating other computers. All they did at the point of having reached end of human civilization was have mastered the operation of their existing computer. Can you follow that thinking? Can you follow that thinking? Because if you can follow that thinking, that ought to open a lot of doors to you for segment and understanding that would be helpful. You look like you think you followed it, but you're not sure. There's a big door opening.
You'll have to listen to this tape 2 or 3 times to be able to understand it, to comprehend it. Then if you can't,
because it disturbed us some time ago when
help, Mr. Wizard, help!
Thought that we were still talking in terms of humans not having minds. They do have minds. And that vehicle wouldn't even be alive as an organism if it did not have a mind.
I think
it's like the living energy in it. It's like the driving force. And that's going to even one day become something that could even be separate. Are you, when you sit down at that, aren't you the driving force? Aren't you the one that puts everything in that computer? In the same way, the computer that your mind uses is driven by your mind. And it has even a mind of its own. Now you have, that doesn't mean that you've done anything. You haven't aborted or disturbed. That's a superstitious old spiritual talk. To think that the fact that your next level mind has moved into this vehicle, that you have done this vehicle any thing wrong, or that you have interfered with a process that the mind this vehicle has would have. That's old thinking.
I think what's confusing is that we said that the mind is the genes before, isn't that right? And I think
the mind.
When we talked about it on that last tape, is that not right?
But the mind isn't the genes. The genes are more like the storehouse. The
Yeah,
mind is
right.
the information that comes out of the storehouse.
Right.
It's the alive information. When you push that computer there, and you get a read back, because you know it has in its catalog a program on such and such, and you've got that catalog. Well, then you're seeing the mind of that computer at work, because it's coming back with what is in it. It's delivering to you of what it knows on that topic.
Yeah, but the mind doesn't continue. It's only part of the vehicle, right? In other words, the genes are the only thing that's passed on.
Yes, but I'm saying that yes, as the genes pass on, the mind is passed on in the gene.
Right.
Do you understand that?
I think that's what was confusing.
It's not some separate embodied thing, because not until you reach the end of completion of human kingdom level, ready to be a beginner in the next level, that you could separate the two.
Which is far down the line.
There's a little bit of haziness. I'm not hung up in the fact that, let's just say that I'm not a member of the methodology, and this is just a vehicle or whatever, just a human. And 20 generations from now, the strain that I came up through, the mind or the genes that was in this vehicle is there now, and it's advanced, it's about ready to take the step. How does that genes and that mind that's 20 generations from this one relate to this vehicle? How is it just one individual that's going to be able to take the step, or how does it relate?
That is primitive thinking.
Okay,
that is
right.
primitive programming.
All right.
That
Get
is,
it out of there.
that is, it's beautiful, but yet the way a human looks at it, it's bad. Because a human has this self-ego concept of what's going to happen to me, where the most beautiful thing that's going to happen to him is not only if, let's say, if a human vehicle has an offspring, not only does his mind actually through the genes, characteristics, the good qualities, everything he learns, they're going to even come in unconsciously, be manifest through that vehicle. Plus, they're going to manifest themselves with the combination of another individual's mind and genetic programming. Plus, everyone I come in contact with that I am a good example for, I have affected his genetic structure as he combines his genetic structure with someone else's, and they have 3 offspring. Look how my life has gone forward.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Instead of having lost it, it has multiplied, and nothing is lost. My mind is actually alive and existing, not only in one package, but in the number of offspring I have, plus the minds of those that I influenced during the time I had something to contribute. Now, I can influence and contribute just as much in negativity and destructive information as I can in positive and in constructive information. Is it still going there?
Is that fair about that? So,
Yes, it is. I can't really. I have a lot of thoughts about what you were just saying that I can't put into words, but they're
That's right, because you have not forced that vehicle yet to update its word processor. And that's what you're doing, because your vehicles do not have in their genes the capacity for this kind of logic. So you're having to force, your next level mind is having to force a system of logic and words to utilize that logic, that it has never, it almost short-circuits the vehicle because it's so far advanced over the evolutionary level of the vehicle itself. And you couldn't even begin to taste of that information had these 2 lab technicians not taken your vehicles through a very careful preparing process for this diskette that you're now trying to put in. That's right.
What Bill said about if you don't understand this, then you ought to listen as many times as you need to this tape, so, or to whatever it is that you don't understand, in order to bring in your next level logic. Because it's
Yes, this is not part of your next level mind.
uh,
Only the process of putting it into a primitive vehicle and having it come out in an acceptable form. That's a new experience for you because you've never had to do that.
The way I'm seeing it, the way I felt it when we were just talking about it is, it's completely, I don't want to be philosophical or religious or anything, it's completely selfless. It's not concerned with the
When he was King Tut or something having any significance, when actually you're beginning to understand how babies are formed into the kingdom of heaven. Because they actually come out the womb at the completion of the human kingdom. That's when, and all of the rest of that led to that was the nurturing of fetuses. It's a nice project.
it's full food. Some food.
That's good.
Well, now, when you're listening to this, don't for one moment think that we're changing anything that we said on another tape about the mind and genes. That's the thing that confuses me mostly. Because I'm afraid you all might think that we're contradicting something that we said the other day, which we're not. We're adding to what we said the other day. You follow that? So try to get it in its right place.
Would you think we need to say any more on that in order to? Okay.
I think so.
Okay. All right.
On the grading of segments, when we get them back after we've handwritten them, before we type them, and we don't understand what a comment means, is there some way to handle that?
No. You just understand the best you can. You just take those comments on the grading sheet just face value and you try your best to see if you can benefit from them. And there's a possibility that you would change your segment maybe very little, just to try to, like maybe if it said need more illustrations, and you would try to maybe add some illustrations, or if you felt like that was valid. Now, it's important that you ask this because we're not saying that you have to take those suggestions by the graders and try to apply each of them. You just take them for what they're worth, and you study your segment again and see if their suggestions are valid and improve upon them according to what you feel is the most right thing to do. But you'd never finish your first segment if you tried to take each person's comment and change your segment to accommodate that comment.
In other words, the comments should be very much alike.
That's true. Okay?
This is about the use of the computer.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Well, Julie and I were designated ones to show people how to use it. And as far as showing people how to use Apple Writer, I feel like I'm as green as anybody else in crafting, and that goes for a lot of things.
Well, then, what you do is on what you do not know how to do, you, if Junodi does know, then you ask her to give you the same briefing on those things that she would give anyone else. Now, and if there are many things that Junodi is not qualified to, then you have to let us know, and we'll somehow or other on a Sunday or when you're at different crafts, let someone maybe at the other craft who's more familiar with those areas brief you or Junoti or both of you on those areas, because little by little, you and Junoti and Sarodi and Melody and everybody, you will increase yours as those who were beginners are going to increase their capacity to perform at these machines. We feel like they're a nice little tool for us to use. We feel like ultimately they'll be a very primitive tool. Because, you know, the interesting thing is, this is a human's effort to mimic the next level. This is the vehicle you're occupying is a computer, but it's all organic matter. It's a computer made of organic matter, and it's a far more advanced computer than this hard, less organic piece of machine that the humans are now calling computers. But as they evolve, they will even come to recognize the fact that they are walking in an organic computer that is a far superior in all of its functioning and programming and replaying, and as they evolve, they'll recognize that they have an organic computer that these computers that they created back in the 20th century were primitive copies of vehicles, storehouses, and expression, so forth. It's funny that yours is like software, even though they call it a lot of material they put on new software. But yours is more organic.
Did we put on the tape about individuals cannot use the word processing on the computer? Did we put that on tape, or did we just ask you to write it? Okay, let's put it on tape so everybody can. And you all can still put it down in the book, and then we'll have it on tape as a check that you cannot use the word processor of the computer, the word processor program on the computer, if you have not completed your lesson on how to use a computer. And then each lesson, each program of the Apple II computer has to have the same 4 lessons and then pass the exam. In other words, just because you have 4 lessons of the Apple II computer doesn't mean you're qualified to do every program.
Nor even that
on
one.
The computer, or nor that one.
Yeah.
Okay? So we don't want somebody who knows how to use the word processor but hasn't passed their 4 tests, 4 lessons on how to use a computer. The first step is to do that. It's just like the first step in the segment is to write. In your segments is to write a genetic segment, general knowledge. We don't want you going any further, and you do that. And so therefore you can't go into the word processor using it until you have passed your test, had your 4 lessons, and passed your test on the Apple II computer usage. Have you followed that? You understand that? Okay.
There's in my experience, it's awareness of what the computer does and the pitfalls and where you can find yourself in traps, that you can make your way through programs that you've never seen before by just reading the instructions. But you'll definitely get in trouble if you do things with that program, even by reading instructions, if you don't have like a background of information how to use the computer in general.
Well, this is why we are depending upon you people in our crafts who have some background in computers to organize our step-by-step background information, so that as you teach them how to use these things, in other words, we're not interested in them learning the material on how to use them in business offices. We're not, you see what we're saying? We're not, in other words, these were designed for many functions that we're unconcerned with. But we are concerned with our learning how to use them for the functions that we're concerned with. Now, if they're still a lot of background, general, step-by-step information that we all need to learn, then we're counting on you all to help us write down the step-by-step, and as you teach them lessons, you would decide what's the most basic thing that I can teach you without going into areas that you would not use. You see what we're saying?
Like there's some areas that you might not use, but that if you understood them,
well, then you need them.
you could use
If they will permit you, if they will permit you to function better by knowing these areas, then you can use them. So it wouldn't really be right to say you
That's
cannot
true,
use
yes.
them.
What we want to do is have everyone understand how to use the computer, so that when we get our instructions, the procedures on the computer, then they can go to the computer and ask it a question and receive an answer. Now that's
Right.
what we want them
That's
to
right.
do. Everyone does not have to know how to use the word processor, is that right?
Everyone does not know, or does not need to. We're after everyone knowing how to go and ask it a question and getting back a procedure.
We don't
We
want
don't
every-
care how long it takes. If people slowly learn to type and so forth, and eventually get to where they can use a printer part or the word processing function of it. Do you see what we're saying?
Mhm.
Because we have plenty of people now who can function in that way. We don't need
We
for
don't want
everybody to function.
anybody other than the ones that we have
Clear.
designated to program.
Right.
So they
yeah.
don't need to know how to program.
Right. They don't need to know how to program. And like we have now a list of people who are typing. And those we feel like are cleared for using it as a printer. Right?
It's a process.
Mhm.
As a word processor.
So we'd like to
Now,
know
as we
the
get
names of
more people who are proficient in typing, and you suggest to us that they're proficient enough in typing, that they might be cleared for using the computer in its word processing function, then we would add to them. You see what we're saying? Because we are trying to get people more proficient in there.
So you all
I think,
send us a list of the names of individuals who have been cleared for typing, so we'll know who they are. And then there's some individuals.
Particularly since we're going to put all the segments now on Biscat.
Can I make a suggestion of one person? I don't know how good a typist he is, but he's a...
Huh? It's still on. Oh, take it off? Okay. Well, before we take it off, I want to say that what we were talking a few minutes ago about the organic computer of the human vehicle in relationship to the next level, having developed a computer, or you know what we're talking about. That if somebody could write an interesting segment on that. Okay? Now, since we're trying to move more quickly on getting our segments printed and getting our program going for the computers for our instructions, if let's say that you're in a craft and we're trying to move fast on typing material that require typists, let's say that you're in a craft and you're cleared for typing, but you aren't maybe as fast as some other typists who might be available at the same time who could work on the project, then yield to them while they're available. And then the typists that may not be quite as fast can do their work when their typing work when the faster ones aren't available. Is that clear?
Also, there's something else I want to
Okay.
add. Last evening when we were talking to the Northcraft, they told us that they did not plan to go to the Southcraft today because the weather report showed that bad weather was coming into Austin. Well, that was almost 24 hours away. Well, not quite that many hours, but let's say 18 hours away.
It's still the next day.
It was still the next day, and our experience with weather people, we had expected bad weather for days, and it still hasn't gotten to us. Or we might have it come in very mildly compared to what they stated. So we're not saying that you plan a day ahead of time that you don't go to the Southcraft on Sunday.
Yeah, if you
because
read
of the weather.
right, if you heard the weather report on Friday night or Saturday morning, and it looked like Sunday was going to be bleak, you certainly wouldn't automatically assume that the weather report was accurate enough that you wouldn't be having a retreat on Sunday.
The
You
weather's
would still
here.
keep things in hold, so that even if it looked terrible but cleared up even just an hour or two before going, that you would be ready to go to retreat. Don't have that much faith in these.
Well, like today, I
predictions.
think it was supposed to be pretty dreary here today, and look at the sun's outside. And it's not very cool, however, it's supposed to come in tonight, but we're not going to sit and hold our breath.
Yes, now they are predicting that you might have some sleet and icy rain on your return this evening, so be careful, but we still aren't putting that much faith in
But the
this.
point we're getting at is don't make a decision the night before or the day before because of the weather report. You make the decision the next day when it's getting close to the time for you to go.